Hey everyone, Switch here. This is another what if scenario video. It is about the US state of Texas. And the title is What if Texas become its own country? Technically, this isn't just an ordinary what if scenario, since this actually has an historical context also. You see, Texas had actually been as one independent country at one point in US history. It was actually independent country as between 1836 to 1846. So it was an independent country using 10 years before joining the United States as an actual state. And when it was as independent country, it was known as Republic of Texas. So there is actually some true historical context if this would happen again. With the historical background that I explained about Texas, another main question is, can Texas declare itself as an independent country today? The answer is, it's a possibility it can. But even if Texas would declare itself as an independent country, then the question is, which major city would have been declared as the capital city of the new Republic of Texas? Well, here's the thing. Since Texas has many major cities like Austin, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. But here's the thing though. San Antonio and Houston had at one point been the capital city of the first Republic of Texas. But before the historical first Republic of Texas was dissolved, the last final capital city of that country was Austin. And since Austin is still the capital city of Texas today, so it is very likely that Austin would remain as official capital city of the second Republic of Texas. But even if that many may wonder, will Texas as an independent country be able to support itself? Well, considering that it has 30.5 million population at the moment, and since Texas has major industries and has several major harbor ports, so it wouldn't be likely to have any problems with making international trade by sea or plane. Since Texas, like I said, has several major cities and also many major airports, which has internationally. But even if Texas would have declared itself as an independent country, how would the rest of the United States react? Well, they wouldn't take it kindly to that. They probably would send their military to try to convince them to stop this nonsense with declaring themselves as independence. They were likely to seize power of many governmental functions like key positions and try to making the movement of the leaders of that movement to withdraw their declaration or suffer from some punishment or something. How would I think that would happen? Well, something similar happened in Spain about some years ago. The small region called Catalonia, they actually had an independence movement for a long time, and they declared themselves as independent. But sadly, the very same day as Catalonia did declare themselves as independent, Spain's main government refused to even declare that, even accept it. In fact, they sent the military to Catalonia. So many people within the regional government, including the regional president, actually was forced to go into exile. So if this would happen again, like if the Texas would have been declared themselves as independent, they would likely, the US would have sent, more likely they would send their military, like National Guard, the Army, to try to stop this from even happening. But they also a chance that they might even accept this, because Texas wouldn't have much to suffer, since, like I said, they have a major industries, major ports, airports, and harbors. But another part of that is also that Texas also has several Air Force bases, Army bases, and all that. So if Texas would have been declared themselves as independent, every single military bases that is U.S. Army, Air Force, and others, they most likely would have been disbanded, and all the personnel would have been transferred back to the other United States. So that would mean that every single one that has been part of the Army, the Air Force, and even the people that's now part of the new kingdom, the country of Texas, even though, even though, even though the major, even though they had declared themselves as independent, but despite having 30.5 million people, but considering that Texas has many military bases, and if that many are in fact loyal to the American government and that, but there might even be those who actually support the country as being as independent. But since they are employed to the US government or the US Army or the military service, they also may have that face consequences, either being court-martialed or even had to comply to leave Texas. But even if that would happen, if all the armed forces that were stationed in the new established Texas as a kingdom, a country, that would mean that Texas wouldn't have any major armed forces or any particular military to defend themselves, unless that there would have been any military personnel from the U.S. armed forces that defected from the U.S. military to the new established Texas military. But if that happened, they would have to be also declared as traitors or even defectors. And that also is a bad thing to do. But even if that would have been happening, there's another problem that could occur also for Texas as an independent kingdom, or country, is that every single major harbor could also be blocked away, meaning the U.S. Navy and the Marines could have sent their most of the advanced aircraft carriers, destroyers, and even blocked off the entrance to every single port into Texas with a blockade to prevent any form of ships to enter or leave. And how would that also respond to the international way? Well, there might be some countries out in the world that might actually support this declaration as independent country of Texas. But there might even be others out there that may not even recognize them as independent because they don't want to have any suffer from any complications or consequences respond back from the US government. So it's many cases that this could happen. But in consequences or the aftermath of this is that first they had to establish their new government in Texas. But even with the historical context that even though Texas at one point were as an independent country, but only for a decade. But is it not a possibility that it could happen again? I mean, it's always a possibility, but the odds for Texas want to declare themselves as independent is a very slim to none. But a possibility? Maybe. Even there were another state of US that also had a general vote to be if they would have been as an independent country. And that the state of California, they also would have been thought of doing it as general voting to declare themselves as an independent country. Well, it's a possibility because they would have been the same thing. They have major cities, many industries, and many international ports and harbors. But it's also many ways that maybe this may not even happening. So, what is the possibility, the chances that Texas would declare themselves as independent within this lifetime? It's a very slim to none. But there are like many questions to why they wanted to be independent in the first place. But would they be able to support it? Like, maybe. But the main another question is, if every single armed forces that would station in Texas would have to be leaving, that would leave Texas completely undefended by any armed forces. So they had to spend the time to build up their own army and air force and all that. And that might even take time. So Texas, as an independent country, would have to establish their own temporarily armed forces. So what kind of armed forces would that be? Well, it might even possibility they actually had some militia, as they had back in the early colonial times. So it's possible that they will have militia to as an equal to armed forces, but they will not even be as strong enough to defend themselves against the U.S. Army or anything. But it will at least give them some chance. But even so, the chances for Texas would have been declared themselves as independent is very slim. But it had been a very good reason for them wanted to declare themselves as independents. But this is only my thoughts and based on the historical facts of the first independent country of Republic of Texas. And that's all I have for that. So if anyone had their own thoughts or opinion about this, let me know in the comment section below. And as always, this is Switch Diablo, over and out.